You get hired for a new job, but instead of signing an employment contract, the manager hands you a tax form called a 1099 and tells you you're an independent contractor. For the company, this is the perfect setup. They get to dictate your schedule and control your output like a traditional employee, but they avoid the heavy financial costs that come with one. By placing you in this category, you instantly lose essential legal protections. You are no longer guaranteed a minimum wage, you do not get time and a half for overtime, and if you get hurt on the job, you have no access to workers' compensation. This dynamic shifts all the liability and all the overhead costs directly onto your shoulders. That massive reduction in operating expenses is exactly why businesses push so hard to classify their workforce this way. But here is the catch. Having you sign a document, handing you a 1099, or printing Contractor in a company handbook does not actually rewrite the law. If the label a company gives you contradicts the physical, day-to-day reality of how you do your job, that label holds zero legal weight. When disputes over this reach the courts or federal oversight agencies, regulators completely ignore the corporate paperwork. Instead, they examine the economic reality of the working relationship. To do this, the justice system relies on a framework called the control test. This universal metric cuts through the jargon by measuring two distinct pillars: behavioral control and financial control. Behavioral control looks at how much authority the company has over your daily routine. Do they set your exact shift hours? Do they mandate a specific uniform or require you to use their precise methods to complete a task? Financial control asks whether you have the economic freedom of an actual business. Are you paid a rigid hourly wage set by the company? Or do you have the autonomy to make strategic decisions that could result in a profit or a loss? Finally, they evaluate economic dependence. A true independent business operates with a diversified client base. If you rely entirely on a single company to survive, you are economically dependent on them. The standard is straightforward. The more micro decisions management makes for you, and the more economic levers they control, the more the law views you as a dependent employee. Let's apply this to a real-world scenario. Imagine a gig economy delivery driver working through a major tech platform. The company's app algorithm dictates the exact route the driver must take, enforces vehicle standards, and locks in the pay rate for each delivery. Under legal scrutiny, this severe lack of operational freedom triggers classification as an employee, regardless of what the app's terms of service claim. Now compare that to a freelance graphic designer operating out of their own home studio. This designer actively pitches multiple clients at the same time. They negotiate their own hourly rates for each project, and they invest their own money into high-end hardware and software. Because they actively manage their own business risk and control their daily operations, the law recognizes them as a true independent contractor. True legal independence requires actual entrepreneurial risk and operational freedom. A tech company simply calling you an independent partner does not make you one. If you realize you have been misclassified, the power to legally redefine your job sits in your ability to document your daily reality. Start saving all of your workplace documentation. Preserve your pay stubs, take screenshots of shift schedules, and back up direct text messages for management. Keep a meticulous written record of every time the company exercises direct behavioral control. Write down exact dates and times when a manager dictates exactly how you must execute your work. Critically, track every single hour you work independently from the company's system. This raw data is the mandatory evidence required to reclaim stolen overtime and unpaid minimum wage. Because the exact strictness of the control test varies by jurisdiction, check the specific guidelines of your state's labor agency and consult with a local employment attorney. Knowing the strict legal definition of your work gives you the power to defend it. When corporations try to strip away your rights with an arbitrary label, the physical reality of your labor is your ultimate legal shield.